Good morning, squad. Alrighty, well, we're going to do this a different way than I've ever done anything, but I think it might be worth doing and might be helpful to come up with a way to do these hearings that are not live streamed. It's very frustrating because everybody had something scheduled again, as though this was going to be a live. Sorry, I forgot to attach my mic to my shirt, so I'm just doing that right now. Everybody had live scheduled. It appeared that there were going to be live streams, and we're back to that same place we were with his pleading. But there are reporters in the courtroom who are reporting on a live blog, and we're just going to credit News 12 New Jersey for that. Thank you very much for putting that together and making that possible so that we can see what's happening, at least through their eyes. And I'm just going to read the blog to you. We're behind it a bit, so that's good. That should help us a little bit with breaks, but I might have to take some breaks. Let's get started. So this morning in the courtroom, the room is apparently crowded. Lots of victims' family members, law enforcement, and media are present. District Attorney Ray Tierney and Defense Attorney Michael Brown are there. Gloria Allred, who is representative for some of the victims' families, is also in the courtroom today. Apparently, Heuermann is looking just straight ahead during the victim impact statements. He's not responding or looking at anyone. I honestly am going to be really surprised if he speaks today. I think he'll have a chance to speak today, but I kind of doubt that he will. But let's just start with some of the quotes from family members. And I've got up here on the screen the pictures of the 8 women who he has admitted to murdering. Now, remember that is just this case. There are other cases. So there may be other trials, there may be other hearings, but this 8 is wrapping up today. The first statement is from Jasmine Robinson, who is Jessica Taylor's cousin. Torso, headless and handless. These words got me. That weekend, she was supposed to come home. Loved ones were calling her. She never picked up the phone because of you. Danielle Mack said of her sister, Valerie Mack had a fire inside of her that lit up the world around her. Joanne Mack, also family of Valerie Mack, you took away every chance that she ever had these past 26 years because you took her life. She had hopes and she had dreams. Joanne Mack also said, and Joanne Mack is the adoptive mother of Valerie Mack, what you have done to our family and beyond is what words can express. Even though justice is done, it cannot be replaced with what you have taken from us. Ed Mack, adoptive father of Valerie Mack, said, Heuermann, you have done horrendous things to Valerie's earthly body, but you have not touched the real Valerie. That's very sweet. Melissa Cann, sister of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, said, this was a calculated, unimaginable evil. Seeing your last court appearance and seeing your smirk proves you need to be locked away for the safety of the community. Here's a look at Heuermann just to remember. He kind of always has this smirky look on his face. You can see it here in this image. He looks like this all the time. I don't know if it's intentional or if it's just who he is, or if it's just this resting face, or if it's just the real reality that he is evil and not sorry. I don't think we're going to see any remorse out of Heuermann today. Nicolette Brainerd Barnes said, I was a little girl and I needed my mom. There are moments yet to come that I will need her and she will not be there. Nicolette was only 7 when her mother went missing. Melissa, sister of Melissa Barthelemy, Amanda Funderburg, said, don't even bother saying you're sorry because no one believes it. True. Let's see. Elizabeth Meserve, who is the aunt of Megan Waterman, said, "Her loss has caused unmeasurable hardship for our family. Megan was a mother, daughter, niece, sister, and a vibrant young woman." Liliana, who is Megan Waterman's daughter, said, "She had hopes and dreams and plans for the future. She was a human being, someone's daughter, someone's friend, and most importantly, she was my mother. She wasn't there for my first day of school, graduation, or moments that shaped me into the person that I am today." Remember that these victims have all been gone 25-ish years. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them 20 to 25 years. Victim impact statements are done. That was pretty quick. District Attorney Ray Tierney describes family testimonies as spectacularly impactful. I genuinely hope that there's an impact on Heuermann. Do I really think there's an impact on Heuermann? I don't. Those of you in the chat, what do you think? Do you think that Heuermann is going to speak today? Do you think he's going to have anything to say? We're caught up now with the live feed, so we can just chat for a few minutes here while we catch up to it. I don't think he'll say anything. District Attorney Ray Tierney also said the effect this case has had on the families is overwhelming. And he also said any remorse shown is insufficient. He is only sorry he got caught. Right? These guys are never sorry for what they did. Crazy Faruno says, I don't think he will. Yeah, it seems unlikely. I think the idea that he's sorry he got caught that's such a common one that we see in murders, not just serial killers, but all murderers, that often any emotion that they show comes directly from being sorry that they were caught, sorry for themselves and for the things that they are going through because of the consequences of their actions. But it's pretty uncommon to see remorse. And I'm not saying we never see remorse, because there are people who do show remorse after committing a murder. But there's a lot of really cold-blooded, I don't care about anybody but myself situations in murder. And definitely serial killers are number one on that list. Tierney also said that this defendant only cares about himself and his sick interests. Yeah. Remember all the evidence that they had against him? The instructions that he had written down for committing these murders, for covering them up, forensic countermeasures, reminders to himself of how to do this or that, or don't forget this or that. Remember that? Can you imagine writing all that down, planning it? I cannot imagine. It is shocking to me that there are people who commit these kinds of crimes that literally have to-do lists like the rest of us do for buying the groceries or completing a project at home or putting on a wedding like we just did, or anything like that, that you would have a to-do list that's so mundane for something like killing multiple women. Does anybody have a guess in the chat? Do you have a guess on how many women do you think he actually killed? And do you think we'll ever actually know? I'm just looking to see if Heuermann's family members are in court. Curious if they decided to show up today. Asa Ellerup and Victoria Heuermann are not attending the sentencing, sounds like. That's interesting because they have attended. Well, at least Asa has attended so many and has given weirdly supportive statements and done weirdly supportive things. I don't know. That's a good point, Bethy. He gets to tell what he did to the FBI. That seems to give his type a thrill to relive and share. Yeah, exactly. As a part of his plea deal, he has agreed to work with the FBI as they are studying serial killers like Rex Heuermann. Hey, Jess. Jess says, I don't think he will, is responding to, will he speak today? And also, I don't think we will know. Sorry, that's what you said. I don't think we will know. And I don't think it was just in New York. Yeah, me too. Me too. I think that this is going to be one of those serial killers that there will be bodies attributed to him for a long period of time, maybe even after his death. Right, Kristi, or in how many states? Right, because he did quite a bit of traveling around. When Asa would conveniently leave with their children on vacation, then he would also be on vacation, his own horrific types of vacations. One of the things that I cannot get past with Asa is that in this most recent documentary episode, Asa said that she had remodeled the house because they still live there, and that her bedroom is now the room where he murdered, dismembered, tortured these women. That she remodeled that room and that's where she sleeps now. That is a sickness I cannot get my head around at all. Goldie says, I heard someone say yesterday on Courtroom Confidential that he has 19 names he's positive are Rex Heuermann victims. 19. So that doesn't surprise me. I've kind of always had the number 20 in my head around him. Jess says, yeah, he had property in South Carolina and Nevada too. Yeah, Nevada is what I really wonder about. Because if you've ever been to Nevada, which I have because I'm in the West, and my mom actually went to high school in Las Vegas, but Nevada, so much of Nevada is vast desert. There could be a burial ground that's never been discovered that's his out there. That wouldn't even be a hard thing. Right, Jess? It is weird, isn't it? Why would she sleep in that room? Why would they live in that house to begin with? I mean, at first I think it was for financial reasons, but Asa was paid a large amount of money to do the documentary that she's done. Why not move to another house and tear that place down? But instead, they remodeled it. They still live there, and she sleeps in the room that he used to murder and torture and dismember these women. That I have stood up for Asa Ellerup throughout this, that we have no idea what it would be like to find out we've been married to a man that did these things, and really felt like that, it's not fair to blame the victims' families. But my God, that is some sick shit, you know? Right. Nobody would buy that house. Why not tear it down and donate the property as a memorial park or something, and take your money that you got from the documentary and move away? Why would you want to live there after knowing all of this? That is very disturbing to me. Okay, so defense attorney Michael Brown has begun speaking, and he is first addressing the families of the victims. He says, I'm sorry for your loss. I've never met your sister, daughter, friend, but I've been studying this case. They were beautiful young ladies, and their memories will last forever. Heuermann is speaking. This is shocking to me. He is speaking. He says, I am responsible for all that was said in this room. The words I say have no meaning. I cannot believe he's speaking. I am stunned that he's speaking, friends. Oh, I bet. Bethy says, bet the neighborhood is sick of that house, right? I would be I would be horrified living there. Living next to that house, knowing what's happened. Right? Crazy for Uno. I did not have that on my bingo card. Me either. The judge asks if he's even a little bit sorry. At least 8 women that we know of. Are you a little bit sorry for that? Heuermann replies, yes. What? We've never been able to hear from Heuermann in any way. And not that this negates anything that he's done, but I am stunned that he would even speak and even say that. He still has some kind of a connection to his ex-wife Asa, and I do wonder if some of this might be to try to mitigate some of this for her and his children. I don't know. Or if this is just performative, if this is to make things easier um in other cases that come later that he's shown remorse. I don't know that this is really remorse. The judge calls Heuermann a disgusting and despicable man and says, "You're a coward." Yeah. I mean, there aren't even words really to describe Heuermann. You know, I don't think we have words bad enough to describe him and what he's done. What do you think in the chat about him speaking? What do you think his motive is? Because his motive is always for himself, right? We know that. He doesn't care about these victims' families. So is he doing this for himself in some way? Does he think this will help him in the future with other cases? Is he trying to maybe help his family? Having over the last few years really on social media gotten to hear the stories of family members, children particularly, of serial killers, it is strange that many of them felt as though their father did love them, and that many of them said that in many ways they had a good life. They look back and they see red flags now and they see problems, but for the most part, they actually don't feel as though their lives were horrible. They weren't abused. They didn't know that their father was a sadist and a psychopath. Heuermann has now been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. I read earlier that it was going to be 3 life sentences because these are second-degree murder charges. I think some of them. I mean, we knew that the death penalty was never an option here, so we knew that the outcome would be life without the possibility of parole. That's the worst they can give him at this point in New York. We'll see if he's charged in other states, though. I find that really interesting. And Bethy says he is lying, right? How can he be sorry? Goldie says that little smirk in him living on it, that little smirk is him living on his memories, and now he has the FBI to do it more. That's a good point. That is really a good point. That is a downside of working with the FBI, is that there is some benefit to him. We can see that. But overall, he's never getting out. He's never going anywhere. I was reading that he's doing a lot of reading of true crime. And we know that he is trying to make friends with other serial killers in prison. We know that he has been writing the Happy Face Killer. He and the Happy Face Killer have been writing back and forth. That is chilling to me. He wants to be friends with other people like him. And in a way, that is a very human desire, I guess. But it is also terrifying that these horribly evil humans want to connect with one another. Yeah. Crazy for Uno. Elwop is good. Will he be in Gen Pop? I wonder. I doubt it at first because of who he is. They probably will have to isolate him for a while just for his safety. Although, remember, Heuermann is a huge man. The dude is a fucking giant. And so maybe people won't mess with him because he's a big, big guy. But ultimately, long term, he will be in Gen Pop because it's life without parole. It's such a strange feeling to be at the end of something like this that has lasted so many years, decades. This case has lasted for decades. And for a long time, many people felt that this would never be solved, that he would never be found. But there were law enforcement who believed that it absolutely was solvable and that eventually they would. And some of them really hung in there for a long time. When the judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole, families stood, applauded, and cheered. I think it's a good day for them that at least they know this is over. He's not going to appeal. He's never getting out. He can't hurt anyone else ever again. Kristi says, I think he is evil incarnate. Well, he is, most definitely. Yeah, I agree. Crazy for Uno. Crazy for Uno says, I think other serial killers would want to communicate with each other because who else can truly understand them, right? In some way, there is still that human need for understanding. Isn't that wild, though? To think that someone who could do the most heinous things would look to connect with other people who also do those most heinous things. There is a weird humanity to it. And it's the thing that we have to remember is that serial killers are human beings. You know, I hear people like Rex Heuermann get described as inhuman. And the reality is they're not inhuman at all. They are, in fact, very much human. And although they seem to be missing some pieces, empathy, feelings, care for others, you know, that kind of thing, he's still a human being. And he's a human being with a family. And he's a human being who was able to at least mimic love to the point that his daughter felt loved by him. And it's true. You're right, Crazy for Uno. They can brag to each other, right? And they can relive their crimes to each other. And that's a part of it for sure. But that need for connection with someone who understands carries through even to the Rex Heuermanns of the world. Jess says, wonder if we will ever hear the recordings of him talking with the FBI. I've wondered that too. I hope that we do. I hope that we get to hear some of where this is coming from. I really feel like the benefit of working with the FBI is to better understand people like Heuermann, hopefully to catch them and stop them faster. I mean, I don't have any faith that someone like Rex Heuermann could be rehabilitated. I don't think that that's possible. I think that there are pieces missing in him that cannot be rebuilt because they were never there to begin with. But if we could understand them better to catch them quicker, there's definitely a benefit there. Right? Crazy for Uno? The fact that they're human makes me wonder, is it possible that he really loves his wife and kids? And maybe he does to the extent that he can. I think that psychopaths like Heuermann have a very limited capacity to feel. And so maybe on some level he does, and on some level he loves them in that they represent him in a way and that they benefit him. Where is Asa from? She is from, I'm trying to remember. Is it Germany? I think it's Eastern Europe. She is of Icelandic descent, but she's actually just from Long Island. There for a while, there were some um, there were rumors that she was from another country. She actually really isn't. She's Icelandic descent, but she's from Long Island, just like Rex Heuermann is. She's an odd one for me, though. I can't get my head around it. I don't understand continuing to live in the house, for one, but sleeping in the bedroom where he murdered these women is just beyond anything I can fathom. Let's take a look at that smirk one last time. It's that face right there that tells us that he isn't really sorry for what he's done, I think, because that smirk, along with that terrible haircut, we've talked about the haircut, but that smirk is something that we've seen in every appearance he's ever made, every court appearance, every photo I've ever seen. That's the look on his face. Right, Bethy. And Rex wasn't a high profile job. He was architect, and he interacted daily with all levels in the public. And, I mean, what that tells us, he's very intelligent and he knows how he's supposed to behave. He can behave appropriately, which a lot of psychopaths can. A lot of them can. I mean, Ted Bundy is a good example of that. I've wondered that too, Jess. I wonder if the culture she was raised in has implications on her views of love and relationships. I agree, though, I can't get past staying in the house. Yeah. I mean, I think about just my own example of this, which is far afield from Rex Heuermann, but it is that my parents both died in their home. They died in their own bed, 18 months apart. And when my dad died, then, my sisters and I owned the house, and it was our decision about what to do with it, and none of us could live in it. We sold it. Nobody wanted to live in the house where our parents had died. We just couldn't do it. Decided the best plan would be to sell it. And that is such a mild example compared to what happened in that Heuermann house that it's difficult for me to understand that. And I just wonder the impact on the mental health of Ace's children, Victoria, and the son has a disability and has stayed completely out of the media for his own protection. And so I just don't ever say his name because I think that's the most respectful thing to do. Victoria has been quite public and has been in the documentaries and stuff, so I don't worry about using her name. But how can they possibly recover from this in any way if they are living in the house where he commit the murders? I do not understand that. Let's see. Question for you all. Would you like to watch any of the press conferences with me? I'm sure that there are some happening right now. We could pull one up and watch it. Let me see what I can find here. This is good we're doing this. It's making me think about different ways to do content when we can't actually watch the trial or the sentencing, that there's some other ways to do it. Let's see. See if there's anything. There must not be anything live right now. They may be scheduled for a little bit later today, because I bet there will be some, but I don't see anything coming up right now. So let me take a look and see what's scheduled. See if there's anything coming up soon. See what we've got here. See what we can find. So far, I'm not finding anything that's live right now. To be honest, the sentencing went quickly. I think it may have gone quicker than people expected. It really didn't take that long, and so it's possible that there are things that are scheduled for later in the day. Looks to me like things are scheduled for later, so we might not be able to do that. What do you think we need to learn from serial killers like Rex Heuermann that would help us catch them quicker or identify them even before they killed? What is it that we're missing to better understand people like him in order to stop them quicker? I think that our legal system has to change in a lot of ways, but one of the ways that I think that we don't currently do anything that is helpful at all is we really don't do prevention. We don't do crime prevention. We do after the fact, we do punishment. But crime prevention is something that other countries do a lot better than the United States does. And we don't teach our children about emotional intelligence. We don't teach them skills to take care of themselves. And that is beneficial on multiple levels because, first of all, it teaches you to have skills of resilience and, understanding yourself and recognizing your emotions and knowing yourself. But when you teach those things to groups of children, you begin to identify individuals who may not be experiencing the same kind of emotional life as most humans do. I think it could be a preventative. I think that programs like that could include screenings that could help parents understand if they have a child on their hands that maybe isn't experiencing true emotions and may need some monitoring and some following. I think we all need to better understand the patterns that people like Heuermann follow that make up serial killers. The lack of emotional response, the lack of empathy, the fire setting, the animal killing, the cruelty to other children. I think that those red flags are not nearly as uh, responded to as they should be. That we already know quite a bit about what makes up somebody like Rex Heuermann, and there were probably things in his upbringing that were red flags. But because as humans, we avoid mental health and we avoid learning about ourselves and understanding our emotions and emotional intelligence to the point that we don't recognize problems in someone until they've already done some terrible things. Learning prevention from other countries, particularly Scandinavian countries, are really good at prevention. But learning prevention skills and adding that into our cultural structure, I think, could have a huge impact. No one on the planet has more serial killers than the United States. No one has more gun crime than the United States. We have one of, if not the highest incarceration rate in the country or in the world. The state where I live, Idaho, has the highest incarceration rate of women in the United States. Did you know that? We aren't doing it right. Locking people up after the fact is not the answer. Prevention is the answer. Goldie says the first line reporters would have been any of the women, but they're still routinely ignored by law enforcement and much of society. Yes, thank you. Exactly. First line reporters of Rex Heuermann's bad behavior would have been sex workers. And we have a terrible track record in the United States of discounting sex workers and treating them as though they are not human, which they most certainly are. If Rex Heuermann is human, then certainly sex workers are human. Give me a break. And so they don't report because they know they're just going to be treated badly and no one's going to help them anyway. It's a cultural shift we need. It's a shift we need in our legal system. Agreed. Bethy says allowing private companies to run our prisons is wrong. Right. Exactly. Because there's a benefit to people going to prison. It makes money. A huge number of people who are incarcerated through the state of Idaho are housed in private prisons in other states. It makes money. Why prevent crime when crime is earning corporations money? It's big money. There are a lot of things we could do better. I also think, and I have thought this for a long time, that we need a centralized anonymous reporting for people who are at risk of a mass shooting. How many times after a mass shooting have we heard that there were red flags that no one reported? We need a place for people to first be educated on what to look out for and someone to tell. We need someone to tell. Because if you think it's the police, it's not. Their job is to enforce the law. If someone hasn't committed crime yet, they can't do anything. We need someone who can. We need crime prevention. We need a whole structure of crime prevention. The FBI knows of almost all of the mass shootings, just my opinion. I know that people do report to the FBI, but again, the FBI is law enforcement. It is not crime prevention. We need crime prevention departments, just like we have law enforcement departments. And crime prevention would be different. It isn't law enforcement. It would be mental health providers. It would be social workers. It would be counselors. It would be psychologists and psychiatrists who have the ability to step in and offer support before the bad thing happens. Right, Grant, and I think that you're right about that the FBI does frequently know, and they don't always step in because it's somewhere, it's someone to tell, and some people do tell them, but they don't act because their job is to enforce the law, and if the law has not been broken yet, there isn't anything they can do. We need crime prevention. mental health professionals should be en masse in schools, right? Not one counselor for multiple schools, as we've seen it to be. We need mental health professionals in classrooms. But we also need education for all people about mental health, about what it is, understanding our emotions, understanding how we feel and why we feel that way. It's not a pipe dream. It's entirely possible. But we don't have it yet. And that's why this stuff continues to happen. It's because we don't act. We are not actively preventing criminal behavior, even though it's possible that we could. But we have to take the money-making ability out of consequences, out of criminal consequences. Right, it is a taboo for people to address mental illness, which is it's really sad and is just a tremendous disservice to humanity in general, because everyone experiences challenges of mental health. Everyone. It's not just the most obvious individuals. It's everybody. We all have ups and downs in our mental health. And we could all use more education and better skills. And we could certainly use education to teach us how to catch those red flags in our loved ones. Court TV has live reporting. Thank you. They were scheduled for later, so they must have moved it up. Let's see. Let's see what they've got up. Okay. Well, that means I have to put an earbud in, guys. Alrighty, I'm going to pull up Court TV for us here. Give me 1 second. Let's see here. Let's bring up Court TV. And hear what some of the reporters are saying now that this is over. It feels weird that it's over, except that I think it isn't over, honestly. I think it isn't over at all. But this
Gilgo Beach serial killer. All right, pick it up where you left off, Ann Jeanette. You were painting a great picture. Victims, family members, they're in force.
Yes, Ted, all of the families, the 8 women, were represented by family members in some way, shape, or form. And we really heard a lot about these young women who needlessly and senselessly lost their lives at the hands of Rex Heuermann. It was very emotional, and we're going to have that video of the sentencing hearing for you at some point today. So everybody needs to stay tuned for that. Everyone should listen to what these family members had to say about these beautiful women. One thing I do want to tell you about, though, Ted, is the fact that Rex Heuermann was cold as ice. You know, we didn't see the smirk that we saw from him during that plea hearing when he was asked if he was pleading guilty and, you know, talking about him cooperating with the FBI's behavioral analysis unit, and we would see that kind of smile and that smirk. That was not there today. He looked straight ahead the entire time. At times, his hands were kind of folded, and it kind of almost I got this vibe that, you know, is he just thinking about, like, okay, how long long do I have to sit here until I get to go back and have lunch? You know, that's kind of what it looked like to me. Just like, how long do I have to sit here and listen to this? He didn't look at the victims. The only time he ever looked at an actual victim was when Amanda Barthélemy, the sister of Melissa Barthélemy, who was a teenage girl when her sister was murdered, said, "Look at me when I talk to you." That's what she said to him, and he kind of looked over because Rex Heuermann took Melissa Barthélemy's phone after he murdered her, called Amanda from Midtown Manhattan and taunted her and told her her sister was gone and said things to her that were just absolutely heinous, said awful things to her. And she said, "Will I ever see my sister again?" And he said, you know, some things in response to that. And she said, "Look at me when I talk to you because, you know, we haven't talked in a long time," or something to that effect. And you'll see that later today. Then when it came time for Rex Heuermann to have the opportunity to speak, he stood up at the judge's direct order. He said, "Stand up." And he said, you know, something like, and this isn't a direct quote, but he said something like, "Well, you know, my words really wouldn't have any meaning." And then he sat down. The judge was infuriated. And he said to him, "Are you even sorry that you strangled these young women?" He was furious. And he's like, you know, kind of like, "Well, yeah." It was really difficult to hear him. He said, you know, kind of like, "Well, yeah, I'm sorry." And the judge basically said, you know, you're a coward. You're a small man. It's been discussed about how large you are, but you're a small coward. And he then went on to sentence him. You could tell the judge is like, "I'm done with you. We're done with you. Suffolk County is done with you. The prison can have you." And that's it. So it was very intense. And then once the judge was done pronouncing sentence, the judge said to the officers in the room, "Get him out of here. Get him out of here." He was really angry.
Wow. I love that. The judge articulating what a lot of people, I'm sure, were thinking had to be very
But
emotional.
you're going to see it.
Yeah. Look forward to that. And we're also standing by for a possible press conference from both sides. Maybe, I don't know if Michael Brown will say anything on a day like today, but at least maybe prosecutors will address the microphones, we hope. But looking forward to, go ahead, real quick, we're going to take a break, but you're going to say something, Jeanette.
Yeah. I do want to let you know, Mike Brown actually spoke up and stood and turned and addressed the victims, and he told them all that their daughters, sisters were beautiful, beautiful women. So I think that was notable.
Thank you for that. All right, and Jeanette's going to be with us throughout the day. We'll get a break back after this.
Welcome to Court TV.
Alrighty, I think that's where we'll leave it for today. It does sound like maybe they do have video of what happened in the courtroom that will be able to be aired later, which is really cool. And if that's the case, then I will make sure that I get it up for us here on True Crime Squad Trials as well. Glad to hear that the judge had enough of his bullshit and ended it and told him to get him out of here. He doesn't need a bunch of time with a bunch more attention. Because if there's one thing we know that people like Heuermann like, it is the attention. And that's just gross. Nobody needs to give that guy any more attention. All righty. Well, that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for trying out this format with me. I think it worked. I think we'll try it for other things that we can't attend live, but that we can follow along with and discuss. I appreciate you joining me here in the chat, or if you're here after the fact, I appreciate you there as well. And we'll be back tonight over on our main channel, True Crime Squad, at 6 p.m. Mountain for Wednesday night case updates, and at 7:15 p.m. for the watch party. If you're not a member of the Super Squad, you can still join and attend the watch party. That's at truecrimesquad.com. It's the first thing at the top of the page. Check it out. It's our subscription. You get The watch party, you get 2 bonus episodes a month, you get access to the secret archives, and 20% off merch. So it's certainly worth doing, and it helps to support us, and it's just another way to interact with us. So I appreciate you all so much. You know it. I am Kristi with True Crime Squad Trials.